And welcome to the latest episode of Brews and News, Beer Guys Radio Brews and News, where we've got cold beer and hot news, Brian.
Hot news.
It's the place to
Cold
be. It's the
beer.
place to be. Friday evening, wind down time, grab a beer, hang out, get some craft beer news. On this week's show, Brian, we're going to go over two brews with some honorable mentions, and we're going to talk about the battle that's brewing over bubbles in beer. So it's pretty wild stuff. I am Tim Dennis, and here with me is my co-host, Brian Hewitt. Brian, I hear we're going to be doing a giveaway this week. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a giveaway at the end of the show, so you got to stick around to win. It's easy to enter. All you have to do is leave a comment with hashtag BGR Live on any platform, and you'll be entered. You have to do this here to win, so it's our way of forcing you to sit here and watch the stream.
That's right. You got to be here to win, and it's our dirty way of getting you to stay here and just watch the show. So easy stuff, though. Just like Brian said, put hashtag BGR Live in the comments, and you'll be entered to win, Brian. So, Brian, what is your beer choice this evening?
So I started off with Houblon Chouffe. I was reading an article about them recently, how good. I think there's a new variety of this or a new hop strain they're using. I don't know if it's in this one or if it's a separate release, but it got me thinking. I'm a big fan of this beer. I've always liked this beer.
Good beer.
It inspired a homebrew recipe many years ago, and drinking it again, I'm fairly certain this is as fresh as it gets because I didn't see them on the shelves the previous time I was at the store. It's really good. It's beautiful. It's it got all the Belgian-y fruity qualities plus some floral hops on top of it. Love the way it comes together. Really do. I've also got a, just because I had to, it's Waldo's special ale. Yeah, triple. Got it. And Black Butte Porter.
Three beers.
Yeah. Well, I started off with the other one. It's nearly gone. It was kind of a pregame beer, if you will.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You got to be prepared. I mean, if you only had two beers and then you wanted a third beer, you're out of luck.
Right?
There's no luck there. So,
well, it's like 2.5-ish. What do you got, Tim?
Yeah, I'm kind of going easy. I got a Taco Tuesday here from local brewery, Monday Night Brewing, Mexican lager. We got a cool little pack with these Taco Tuesdays in them, and they had some Michelada mix in there and a little tahine to rim the glass with. So I tried that out, and I'm a fan of the Micheladas. So go down with that. This is tasty by itself, but I'm also totally cool with making it Michelada there. Also rocking a Lucky Town beer glass, little brewery out of Jackson, Mississippi. No longer there, Brian. Lucky Town is no longer there. So we just, I still got the glassware from a visit over there. So enjoy that. But Brian, let's dive right into our news here. So Beers for a Cause. In case you weren't aware, May is both Celiac Awareness Month and Mental Health Awareness Month, and brewers across the country have special beers to help with both efforts. Brian, several Denver area breweries teamed up to make Brute Together Brute IPA, a gluten-free beer made with millet and buckwheat rather than traditional barley. The beer was brewed at Holidaily Brewing Company, and it's their gluten-free facility, and they did that to ensure a safe product and eliminate any chances of cross-contamination there. So it is a crisp, light beer, features a dry brute flavor with hops and fruity notes from the addition of fresh mango puree, pineapple, and orange. So that should be a tasty beer. The beer is going to be released at participating tap rooms May 5th and 6th. They said do check with the individual breweries just to verify exactly when they'll be releasing those, and you can get more information on Holidaily's Facebook page. Also, if you'd like to hear more about Holidaily Brewing, the founder did join us on episode 167 with Karen Hertz, the founder of Holidaily Brewing. So you can check that out, get more news on that. For Mental Health Awareness Month, Brian, we talked about this a little bit on Beer Guys Radio. There is a brewery, Eagle Park Brewing Company. They launched Things We Don't Say IPA. So they've shared the recipe with hopefortheday.com and encourage any brewery to join them in brewing the beer. They did put the recipe out there just saying, pull it down, brew it. They said you don't even have to brew a beer, Brian. They just request that you use water in your recipe.
Okay.
Seems like a pretty simple request there. So, as mentioned, we spoke about this on last week's show with Red Top Brew House, and we talked about their collaboration beer with local homebrewers, Rainy Day Brewery. So that is going to be brewed up and served mid-May at Red Top Brew House, and we even had a heartfelt discussion about mental health awareness after the show, Brian. So it looks like beer is fulfilling its mission.
That's right. Bringing people together and helping healing what's wrong.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, you want to tell us about beer bubbles?
Yeah, this has been one that I've been kind of following for about a week. So how many bubbles are in a glass of beer? And that's a kind of a weird question. Well, a study published in the American Chemical Society looked at several factors to estimate the number of bubbles produced by a glass of beer before it goes flat. It's using a highly scientific methods, and you can tell they're scientific because they use the term bubbles, which is a very sciencey term.
It is.
Researchers poured half a pint of lager into a slightly tilted glass at a standard serving temperature of 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, they observed high-speed photographs, not video, but photographs of the beer to determine that between 200,000 and 2 million bubbles are produced by a half pint of lager. So that's a pretty large range, 200,000 versus 2 million. That's a lot of room there. Researchers did note that this could be impacted by the cleanliness of the glass and the surface imperfections in the glass. But wait, it gets more exciting. Just when you thought like, oh, I can't even at this point, all this information, there's scandal on top of this. The folks over at AmericanCraftBeer.com are calling BS on this quote unquote study. Their argument is simple. The researchers have used just one type of glass and all the same beer. It's all Heineken. And as any craft beer drinker knows, different styles have different carbonation levels, not to mention that different pouring methods, temperatures, glassware will produce different results, especially glassware designed with nucleation points to release bubbles. So we think we're on board with AmericanCraftBeer.com on this one. The research done is nowhere near rigorous enough to get even remotely a scientifically accurate result. So you can't really say this range is really wide, but you haven't done enough to know if that's really definitive or not. When I first saw this article, honestly, talking about bubbles and scientific study, I immediately detected trace odors of horse manure, not horse blanket, but horse manure.
From the article over the internet.
Yeah, just wafting.
Okay. Like, all right, fair enough.
Is that horse manure I smell? Like, no, that's not great at all. No, so somebody else had the same feeling as we do, and they called them out on it very publicly. So, but I appreciate that they're studying the beer. I did like that somebody was taking that approach, looking into it to see, answer a question that people might have.
It just seems like there just was not nearly enough done to make any conclusive evidence there. So,
not even close. Just the difference between pouring like your Belgian beer, like the Houblon Chouffe versus like a lot of other domestic anything, even Belgian styles, the difference in the size of the bubbles, the quantity of the bubbles, how many come up when you're pouring it, huge difference, massive difference. So you can't possibly think that Heineken is a good representation for all beer, unless that's all you've ever had.
Maybe the rebuttal there from AmericanCraftBeer.com, maybe that will force some new bubble studies. Maybe we can check that out. Yeah.
I would be curious. I would be more curious about, instead of the amount of bubbles out of the beer, the actual average size of bubbles across different styles and different providers of beer. So does an IPA have larger bubbles on average than a Belgian? I'm going to say yes, probably does. But, I'd be curious, and what's the average size of them compared to the two? I think that'd be more interesting to me, because I think that's going to have a greater impact on mouthfeel versus the quantity, which is just how much CO2 is actually in solution. We all kind of know that there's a difference there, but we don't know about the size of the bubbles, too.
Right. I mean, because beers are carbonated at different volumes of CO2, so there's going to be different amounts in there. And I would think that, the body of the beer, everything would affect, talking about your bubble sizes, that the body of the beer, how thick your thick boy is, how crispy your crispy boy is would impact your bubbles there. So,
and one of the arguments when home brewing for bottle or keg conditioning with letting the yeast chew through a little bit of sugars to produce CO2 versus forced carbonation is you get smaller bubbles, which gives you better mouthfeel. Theoretically, that was the argument. I've never seen a study that proves it, but I remember that being a thing. You get a better quality, you get smaller, more enjoyable bubbles in your beer for certain styles if you keg or bottle condition versus the forced carbonation.
There's definitely more science to be done on bubbles in beer. Well, Brian, I have a question for you. Do you practice Santeria?
I totally do.
You do?
Oh,
Well,
absolutely. You didn't know that?
do you have a crystal ball? Because if you did have a crystal ball, you probably would have seen this one coming, Brian. So,
Okay.
in celebration of the 25th anniversary of Sublime's eponymous album, L. Smith Brewing Company is releasing limited edition cans of their Sublime Mexican Lager. The beer is a Vienna style lager, and this throws a lot of people when they hear Mexican lager and then Vienna style lager, but that is a traditional Mexican beer that was brewed by German and Austrian immigrants that came over to Mexico after the Mexican War of Independence. And for a time period there, you were much easier to find a Vienna lager in Mexico than you were in its homeland. So, and of course, the Sublime album, Brian, it produced hits like Santeria, Doing Time, What I Got, Wrong Way. And it's hard to believe that was 25 years ago.
It's crazy. It really doesn't seem like that long ago. Now, it definitely seems longer ago than maybe 10 years, but I don't know about 25. I think the calendar's lying to us.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that was a great. I mean, the songs are still great. I still, give them a listen quite frequently. So
get a lot of airplay. Now, that's not the first time that they've done a collaboration together. Do you remember that they did one before that?
I believe this. I think isn't this beer like a regular in their lineup? The only thing here is the commemorative cans. Is that right?
That could be it, because I was looking at it. I'm like, I know what they were particularly memorable because they were one of the few places out there that had the all black can. The can itself, even the top where your opening it was black, which I thought was really cool at the time. So yeah, it's been around for a while. I haven't seen it in a while, but presumably still a regular release. I haven't actually seen the anniversary can design yet, but the original cans were very cool. So I imagine it's going to be great.
Excuse me. And I think when they did their initial run, didn't they do a small batch of 40s at the brewery?
They did. Yes, that's right. We talked to them about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it, man. I tell you what, we've talked to a few breweries trying to get the 40 ounce to come back, but we just haven't had any luck with it yet. So.
Yeah, we did on this week's show, in fact. So you have to tune in and check that out. See what that's all about.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me take the next thing. We've got something else in the news that I think is really cool. An ISO article just from the outset. Chimé's 150th anniversary beer is back, and this time for good. What that means is that in addition to the golden, the red, the white, and the blue that you typically see out there on the shelves, you will soon see the green, aka Chimay 150. The green is a strong blonde ale that was originally brewed in 2012 to mark Chimé's 150th anniversary. And the beer has been one that the breweries supposedly has been wanting to bring back ever since because it was very popular. It doesn't at all have anything to do with the fact that Roquefort and a few other Belgian breweries have come out with strong blonde ales. In the case of Roquefort, theirs is named Triple Extra, so nothing to do with that at all. But that seems to be a trend, the strong blonde ale. So that's kind of an exciting thought.
Okay.
Yeah. According to the article I read by way of the built-in translator in a browser, so hopefully this is correct, the beer is said to offer sweet and spicy flavors and be a little rounder and have more accessible bitterness than the Chimay White, which is a triple. So I'm intrigued by this. Are you going to look for this? Are you going to drink this, Tim?
I will drink it, Brian. You don't see a lot of coming out from these classic Belgian brewers. They've kind of got their stable there that they're happy with, and they rock along. Every now and then you see a seasonal or something like that. But, to see it being added into a regular lineup, I'll take a look for it. I'll see what I can find.
Yeah, now it's going to be in fall before it makes the mass markets, the wide distribution. But folks in Belgium are going to get it soon if they don't already have it already. So
I don't know if I can wait that long. That's a long time.
Yeah, I know it's a really long time. But the green, I love that they're just known by the colors. I actually know them better by the colors than I know them by what they are. So yeah, it's going to be cool.
Chimay blue, red, Sink. What is blue? Grand Reserve or what's that one called, Brian?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, the blue is the quad and the red's the double, right? And the white's the triple. And I forget what golden is. Is that the Patter's beer or is that like a...
There's really no way to know.
Yeah, there's no possible way to figure out what these are.
No one knows at all.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. That's exciting because they've not added to their beers in a line of beers in a long time. So new Trappist beer is always an exciting thing.
Yeah, Brian, a story we covered on our weekly show, but I think it's pretty fun, so mention it here. You told us as Brits are returning to the pubs, they're running out of beer over there, right?
They are, yeah, yes. So they opened up limited outdoor service in. I'm going off the cuff here. In April, believe it was April 12th. So Brits are just flocking to it. They're drinking up everything they can. They're lining. There's lines everywhere. It's been this way since the 12th. The pubs are actually turning people away because they're completely booked. They can't seat any more people with all the COVID restrictions. So it's so bad that I think it's Heineken is limiting the amount of kegs that they will actually sell to a pub per week to 3. So they just don't have the capacity right now to give them the beer. They're looking to hook them up with other beers, which makes me wonder if like a little bit of this throttling is to kind of get people to look into other beers. But some of these pubs are required by contract to serve these particular beers, and so they're in a really bad spot. Like we get 3 kegs a week. We've got Brits coming out in droves to drink now that they can. And we're out of beer. We can't just serve another beer. We're contractually obligated to serve these beers. So it's a real problem for them. It's actually going to get a little worse in May because limited indoor seating is going to open up, and that opens up more capacity for sitting. So that means you can blow through beer even faster. But I would hope that Heineken is going to get their stuff together, and get them more beer so they can do that. Like it's just this printing money. It's like, get on it, Heineken. You own these pubs, so get them some beer already.
Well, that was one thing, in America with prohibition, and we think of prohibition or not prohibition, excuse me, but when coming out of prohibition with the 3-tier system, that was one of the things that was supposed to protect from was the tied houses. And, so it's something where one big conglomerate owns the rights to this pub and they can't serve anything else, so it kind of monopolizes things. And that was supposed to be protected from with the 3-tier system. And of course things have got a little twisted there. But I guess both methods have their own issues there.
Yeah. The intent was, that's the thing with a lot of these laws. The intent is good. The problem is there are unforeseen, unexpected consequences. And you've got crafty people that are looking at every law and saying, hey, how can I use this to my benefit? And they will, this is what happens. So you wind up in a situation where breweries don't really own their product and don't really have control over how it's sold.
Is this what you wanted? Is this what you wanted? Yeah.
The interesting thing about that story that I did not bring up in the show, there's another shortage that's involved in this brewing shortage. I don't know if you've heard about it. Have you ever had Marmite before?
I have not had. I know of Marmite. I have not had Marmite.
So it's like Vegemite. The shortage of beer has resulted in a shortage of Marmite, which is a staple over the UK. I have been to the UK. I not to brag, humble brag. I won't say I like Marmite, but I actually have some, and it's actually I've learned over time that it's a pretty good thing to have after a night of drinking. It's got a lot of B vitamins and one. It's made from the yeast that are left over from brewing. So if you brew less, which is what's happened during the pandemic, there's less of that yeast. There's less of that yeast to use to make into Marmite. People in the UK eat the heck out of some Marmite, and so there's a Marmite shortage. And I haven't looked online to see if it's actually affecting the US for people who would ship it over here, but yeah, that's the weird thing that's happening right now as a result of a beer shortage. There's a Marmite shortage too. So yeah,
I've heard that one of the things that people do, one of the mistakes that people make when they first try like Marmite or Vegemite, is they really smear it on the toe. And I saw some Australian was on a talk show. He's like, no, that's not. You basically dip the knife, and it's almost just like scraping the back and the knife on there for a thin coating. It's not meant to be gobbed on there like you're having a peanut butter sandwich. So
I was kind of thinking about this earlier today. So Marmite's a little bit, and Vegemite, I assume. I haven't had Vegemite in a long time. Marmite's a little bit like you took a bouillon cube and you added the tiniest amount of water to it, just enough to make it into a thick paste, and then try eating that. It's like really super intense, really super salty. It's too much. So you want it in small batches. You know what? Actually, a little bit in like a chicken stew or something like that would add a lot of character to it, but it would only be a little bit, just like you would do with bouillon.
Like adding a bouillon cube. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
makes
it's very intense. Really, a little goes a long way. So,
Well, good
yeah.
stuff. Well, everyone, this has been this episode of Brews and News. Thank you for tuning in. We're live every Wednesday with our main show, Beer Guys Radio, at 7 p.m. and every Friday at 8 p.m. with our Brews and News. So we do thank you for tuning in, and we hope you all have a great week.